it's this Phoenix again, back temper about he was actually lead on break still on the time of recording. I hope everyone had a great new year and such. So, and I also am catching up, mostly done with Pokemon, who I'm about to start pretty soon. Everything that's going on. Let's see, I'm also thinking my tier list of Pokemon theme songs until with alongside that. Overall, let's get straight into the decks today. I have 3 decks for you I'm still utilizing. Pretty much my deck is pretty much still the same for Traptrix. The only difference is I'm actually thinking of adding an Eldrich Legend, all based on my decks I'll be showing you. It will be at least interesting, I feel like. Since this deck, I feel like I might as well, and also a flavor stuff I can actually utilize as a backup plan alongside Fusion Destiny. I'm still thinking of keeping it, mostly so I have more forms are removable, but as a backup plan, which will be nice. What's going on to next second? Pretty much there's nothing else difference-wise, but I am thinking of making a separate deck, or at least adding some more stuff for removable points. Overall, not much is going on with the deck. I feel like it's starting to feel vanilla though, but I'm actually just thinking of taking out some cards maybe pretty soon, or lower down some ratios. Like, I'm still thinking about this mostly because of the space happening soon, and I don't feel like... I feel like I need to figure out a new engine and such. Overall, let's go to the third deck. Next up, pretty much, we're going to move on to my Cyber Dragon deck, which is not much different. I am thinking about some changes pretty soon, or just make a more viable system, I feel like, at this point, with the deck. Or just go into something, because Cyber Dragons, I'm mostly just utilize for sea summoning for dailies at this point, and I feel like I might as well update my deck to something else or use a mix of Cyber Darks at this point because of utilizing it so much. Okay, now let's go straight into deck profiles for our 11 matches that happened. Overall, let's go into our first deck, which will be pretty much a Luber with dragonmaids, aka Despia slash Albaz. Nothing unusual here, it's the typical engine I usually will think of and mix with dragonmaids. The only difference is running less changeover, which I feel like should be 2 of at least. You can afford 44, I feel like, with all the engines combined. Overall, not much difference besides stuff like Boreas, which makes sense with all the Albaz, which is technically an option that some people can work with. Iron Dash mostly for Albaz, I'm guessing. Typical 2 of, this should be 1 more, I feel like. House Dragonmains, I feel like overall that's okay. Guardian Rays, outside the tuner. I know outside maybe about 4 tuners, I really don't see any need for Guardian Rose made, since you need 2 level 2s, and I feel like this card is just straight up garbage, I feel like. Striker's alright, I guess, since... Actually, never mind, it's just for link summoning, technically. Just to go into Frigus. Hit is alright, Prairie Plan's alright. Overall, I feel like the space should be, Rhino Bink should be more T, probably coming up with this deck in mind. At least that's my thoughts for any time. Okay, let's get straight into the match. Overall, first match. Overall, I just bricked straight up this match. Both of us pretty much was just breaking this whole time. And I felt it was like straight up, I'm like wondering, is it Nubron or something else? What the heck is it? What the heck am I facing? Then I was like, oh, dragonmaids. That's a difference. Next I use Siren Dragon Core. As I emergency in hand. Some emergency here. Surprise, no Ash. Machine dupe. I was playing around. I decided just to play around this. I should have saw my video personally. That's what I realize now. But I was like, Nibiru would kill me either way. I decided to core back to my materials so don't get kaiju'd, because people might be playing Lava Golem. Overall, apparently I had nothing else to fear. I feel like I can double check the list. Hold on. Yeah, Nibiru is in the list, so overall that's the only thing that cost me a match, so I felt like if Fanidia was a better play. Even in my head, I always play around. You never want to get a beer with this deck, so you always play around it unless you had what you need. I could play around it, but I would not be able to straight unless I go into tokens or such, so this is pretty much the best play I can go with my hand opening. Next deck essentially is just straight up kaiju with Eldrich and Enforcer engine, nothing is unusual. Outside utilizing about only 2 essentially with this, not much else. Too many traps I feel like. The normal, besides our Dragon Prison, I feel like they're running too many of cards that should not be utilized for a deck, I feel like. But anti-spell makes sense. Ultimate, summon limits, I guess, since they're mostly hardly doing much. Personally, I don't feel like summon cards actually needed. Like, summon limit, it makes sense. You might as well just play it at this point. But a deck, you might as well just create a war crime, essentially, which goes a match. Knock him on the board. Honestly, I do not see how that could be. He's like, no, hold on. Oh, so it's a genius spell. Okay, never mind. I never knew, or I never cared or bothered looking at this because most people don't usually go into this. So, makes sense. Spread Knights makes sense. Vampire makes sense, I guess, but should actually utilize actual cards instead of spells. But that's just me. I feel like the last theory is just like whatever is point, just be targeted, just for the pot. I feel like. I will say I did lose myself in rage in 2 matches. In 1 match, I think some person maybe did something. I suspect that could be wrong. The other one, the person was so laggy. I literally was actually time to rage quit if I wasn't finish my dailies. Do Dre didn't touch on Veer because I learned my lesson time-wise since I'm getting used to playing a deck again. The other Finny couldn't do much with Sprint. Opening-wise, have core to actually get Nibiru. At first, this match, I was like, what the heck am I facing? To where it happened, I was like, okay, this is probably Traptrix, right? But then I was like, later on, it'll make sense why I'm surprised. Then I was like, goes a match. That's my play. I should have gone into I should have actually gone into a fusion, I guess, at that point. Since I can get rid of it. Next up actually is a deck I'm actually thinking of making. Traptrix makes those Eldrich, I feel like. I could afford to make 2, but I have some plans right now. That will payback I'll show at the end. Overall, I'll probably just utilize some of these. I feel like these 3 should be the most obvious. And I feel like this should be the main focus mostly, since you utilize it for Eldritch combos, which makes more consistent. It's a good play outside the typical plays you mostly utilized. The only stuff I'll hurt, I feel like, is 1 and day a piece if you don't have it. Pause berries, whatever. Anymore is probably mostly it. Outside that, most cards you can easily just craft outside, but you might as well just pull for the packs, I feel like, to possibly get more copies of Eldrich and some Junior cards. Outside that, utilizing Traptrix Alumnus, which I still need a couple of copies of, I feel like. Which is ridiculous, because we all know that. I mean, this makes sense with the Eldrich playing with the Nibiru as well, Traptrix Serie. Then Unroll just perform a removal, which is not that surprising. Outside that, I feel like the Graveyard Trap Pull was the best case, since there are a lot of cards that flow from the field and such. That makes sense. Trap Pull makes sense. Outside that, I feel like they should be running anti-spell, since you're not running that many spell cards. Essentially, with Traptrix, it might either way. And maybe... Why pretty much I can't afford crafting it right now, but should be showing later at the end if you're still watching. Overall, in my hand, I was like, yeah, a Luber, nothing else, and I get baited. Branded Fusion, Max C. At this point, I was like, F. Then I was like, Lubin happens, Despia happens, Labrynth happens, Mirror Drain pass. Sadly, I mostly make sure that 4, but I have effect in my hand, so I hand trap. 1 to me piece, and I was like, whatever. Effect Valley here, since it's important enough for the matchup. Then I was like, oh wait a minute, I'm dealing with Eldrich? I didn't want to get anything else happening, so I decided to banish it. Disperse disappointment. I'm like, I can't do anything else here. I had red and red, so I have an out to mount cards and draw. I decided to get rid of monsters here. Sadly, I cannot do anything else here. I know that Eldrich is eventually going to come out, so I can grab ball in the field. Since I have 3, I can afford to. I decided Empire Mirrors, so they pop off. Sadly, this card can also be utilized. As material, this is main target. Eldrich happens, then I will actually go into Albaz, get rid of my second copy, get rid of it, go into Labrynth. With the Labrynth, I'll go into Masquerade to punch them before. Then I decided to banish it, get rid of it. Opponent activates the cards. To reset. Opponent decided to activate it again. Branded in red, I decided to get rid of all the materials in hand. Go into the Guardian Chimera. I could have gone to 2, but I should have gone into it. I was like, I still got this game in my bag. Personally, I might just grab a second Guardian Chimera eventually. Go into Brand Fusion, bait it out to whatever I can. We'll go into Labrynth. Get rid of both of them, go into Destiny or Phoenix Enforcer. Mostly just flexing amount attacks and I can remove stuff on them. It was just fun up to that. Next up, we're playing Dinomorphia, utilizing the most newest cards they added to the deck, but outside the typical engine. The one thing I would say is I think this person might have actually done something because I had a couple of outs for his deck for some reason and it didn't want to trigger. I was tempted to just give up. I kind of forgot about reporting it yesterday. Overall, last game match I hate it. I don't want to go into details, but this one actually helps. The opponent can activate effects monsters that control that attack greater than that or equal to life points. Overall, I do not see how the heck this did not proc at all. All I know is that Deadman, I'm pretty sure it's cheated SML, because everything should have procced at least at one point or another. I feel like, because how ridiculous it was. First I go Dynamo, says I break, go into Syria, go into Exterior, go into summon out the deck, bait out anything. Nothing happened, then I say go Verte into Fusion Destiny. Phoenix Enforcer into Perpent, so if I get punished, but also because of my weakest monster. I set 3 and pass. Parallax. Prosperity, sadly a breakdown was like, oh wait, Dinomorphia is happening. Activate Floodgate. I should have held off on it. Parallel happened, I decided to call by the grave. I could have punished them since it would have helped later, but I was like, call by the grave, it's gonna be worthless, I feel like, more later. What do I know? Oh, and I got rid of Solomon, which was probably the best card to get rid of. Solomon Strike happens. I decided to bait it out. Go into Dominate, go into Dominate Special, then Dominate, then Dominate Skill triggers, both of them. Then I was like, oh wait, they had a second domain. Wow. Chainhole? Wait. Chainhole should have procced at least. Chainhole wouldn't have procced, that's actually right, hold on. I might have got confused at least at this point, wait. Floodgate got removed. Guess I'm gonna borrow a sword here. The one thing I say is that strange is that this should have procced. Gravekeeper's Shuffle should have procced here. It should have. After this is just a wipe. This is why I think they cheated somehow. This whole match. Everything else works, but this. Trehill makes sense, but at least Graveyard Shuffle should have been procced last turn. This is why I think my opponent cheated somehow. It should have at least done that, and I should have won, actually. But, hold on. It should have at least procced, at least I think. It should have at least procced, at least negate it. Never mind. Never mind. I just not reading it right properly, apparently. I just drew a monster and I was like, might as well end this. Never mind. I'm just stupid. Overall. Okay, next up. Ryan, I should have just read properly, but most should reveal the deck, yeah. The next deck is like something they call Superheavy Samurai 2.0 because I'm here at Traps has. So Scarecrow with this. Clear Karibo, which is niche. Smoke Mosquito. Then from there, Maxi makes sense. Second. Next up from there is just get rid of monsters and traps. Genix Lag Slides, and I was like, whatever. I don't see what it can do. Tour Guide makes sense in my head overall. Next up, Darn Losters alongside this. The card at least I'm mostly mad about are probably this disc mostly. Beers like whatever at this point since it's most people utilize the one at least. Archmax, which is the one thing I kind of hate. One of those two that I just don't like dealing with in general. Next up, we got the last card, which is Dogmeta next, which makes sense. I was expecting one more matchup, really. Anime is just the card to have outs. Outside that, there's not much to go into, besides Dark Charmer. Since you're utilizing so many, do you utilize all the Charmers that are links to go into, with the Poly being a good backup. If they can get rid of all four, but they can only do at least 2 max for summons. With this still being with this only be 1, 2, with Nibiru, it would not work, so I did not know what the heck they're doing with the Pollen deck. It makes sense with them going to the Wind Charmers. I said that, let's get straight into match. Now, I will say this much. This person has so much connection issues, I felt like I can just do 2 Card for Vanguard, at least 1.5 Card for Vanguard 0 matches with Altmile and JP. Or 2 duels and Master Duel, I feel like that amount of span time. Overall, it had a mix. I lost this one, my fault, I admit. But how the heck this person not DC at all? I do not understand. I'm just not gonna get that played. There's so much not happening. But I suddenly saw him as a monster, and I was like, finally something I work with. Going Cyber Dragon, special on Galaxy Soldier. Actually on Galaxy Soldier in hand. Special on another Galaxy. Now this is part of his name it. Oopsie. I should have special summoned out. I should have special summoned at Cyber Dragon Nova here. I suppose I special summoned Cyber Dragon Nova, but I forgot. Since I would have had enough for at least potentially game going to Verte. I accidentally got punished for it without thinking because of how frustrated I was with the match. Verte would have actually gone me into Cyber Dragon. at least. But the fact is that it would not matter as long as I at least had 2 Cyber Dragon monsters. So I could have gone for game, but as we found out deck later, opponent would take half. For some reason, this monster didn't want to attack. Hold on. I don't understand how the heck Phoenix Force couldn't attack afterwards. At this point, I was like, it doesn't matter, this is game, might as well show it. I don't have time to explain this one. It's obvious what happens. I will say, like this, I'd literally hate you as a person to mostly make me suffer through that long AFK. I felt like I might as well have been facing what was originally an AFK match, with the person just doing 5 minutes just for a match alone, just for a part of the festivals originally. I hope you're happy you made my effing day that day, because of how annoying it was. Next deck is Gimmickpuppet. There's not much to explain since, actually, Machina ones, huh? I didn't realize that part, actually a part of the engine for them. That makes sense for some. Gimmickpuppets mixed in with Gimmickpuppets mixed with Machina Cannon just to actually have some consistency. Gimmickpuppets are supposed to go into level 4s, but mostly you want to go to rank 10, rank 8s, which are most hard to summon out. So you utilize a lot of stuff, including, like, if you get special and summon out, utilize machine duplications, trade-ins to draw into your extra cards you need. Event castles, whatever. Pause since you want to go for OTK, you essentially want to go into it, use it. Lightning Storm is whatever. Perform Puppet is like probably the best section to mostly get consistent ranks for your monsters you need. A front reckless summoning is whatever, but since it's just on the same name, so it will actually allow you some more puppets or more of the same ones, so it doesn't matter. Puppet Parade, I do not know. Overall from here, I feel like puppets are pretty much the same outside those cards, since those cards are like Franktel, like New Swear's deck or something. Overall, I just don't feel like there's much difference. I feel like with the decks. My hand was essentially just a brick overall, so I didn't feel like I actually needed stuff to work with. I would say just press press my cards, and do what I can. But mine had a many outs, and I was like, Solemn Judgment here, because I can't afford it. Then another one, then I was like, oh, they're going for this kind of route. I had much breaks, so I decided to go to Traptrix for full. Then I was like, oh wait. Parallel C, Parallel 0. Go to Prime Plan, go to Future Destiny, so I have complete outs for boring wiping them. Overall, matches from here is just straightforward. Easy to deal with, it's horrible. Set favorite shot pull since I just drew it, so I have an out. Being the Forcer, I'll have a consistent board wipe. What I should have done instead was do like something else differently. But it still got the job done, which I'm happy about. Opponent size, I decided to go into Dinomorphia. Got that, get another special summon out, get another trap. Decided to go for complete OTK, I could have. But it wouldn't matter if I went into that. Ruffles was my best bet next, so I have all my traps to work with. Phoenix Forcer decided to go for game here. Deck is salad, there's nothing much different here. That's the typical one I expect from a structure deck, mostly with those little customizations with like Transfers Talkers, which utilizing 2 for some reason instead of the other stuff. But overall, it's mostly what I expected. With the update jammer, outside that, nothing else outside the normal. nothing much to go off of since I did the profile, so let's get straight into the match. Actually, never mind, mirror, which is the only difference, so it is pretty much the only card there, so it's just there to mostly speed up the reactions with Signet go into it. And you can just special summon again, so let's go straight into match for real time. Overall, I don't know what to think. This match, I realized that Yule is the meat, and I was like, huh, that's unusual. Then I was like, it's whatever. I decided let's speed this up, go into mirror, going to get my combo off, so I have a guaranteed link 2 next turn if I get imbued, so I don't get punished. Go into Surrey, go into Traptrix, next up I go into Ruffles since I have most of the cards I need, but I'd rather have some offense. I could have gone to for a backup plan, but I decided I might as well. Go into Judgment here so that I don't have to deal with it. Opponent activate Salzy, decided to get rid of it as well. Go into Ruffles, go into Traptrix Sharp Pull. Since I'm going to realize combos next turn, Shine Hole. Go into Floodgate so they don't link off since they can't link if it's not face up. Traptrix Sharp Pull, I was like, let's get one. Traptrix, next time I activate it, Chapel back in my hand. Decide for Chapel, they decided to do anything else. Private Plant Verte. Set bows, going to Fusion Destiny. Opponent decided to give up since I had enough to end game and they had no more interruptions that they noticed. Let's get in game. Next Side Strikers, there's nothing unusual about it outside the typical stuff like Pablo Avarice and the typical Millicene Max cards with Sky Striker stuff. Sky Striker Member, Lightning Storm if possible. They're going to their typical field spell. Sky Strikers, Call Bedgrave, generic Sky Striker Hornet, not surprising. Sky Striker Window Anchor, Forbidden Droplet. And next up, most of their deck just being extra wide, just being totally Sky Strikers, with some generic stuff being like Nightmare, Phoenix, Sky Chargers deck, Nightmare Unicorn, Access Scope mostly for game. Nothing unusual here. Overall, let's get straight into the match. Mostly just two hits on delay, so I go bad side. Next deck is my Paul Albaz deck, since I need a Fusion Summon from right. Go into Fusion Destiny, I guess. Alright. Just turn. Go to that, go to this. Go into Labrynth, may take a little more under it down. Overall, go into Mirror Jade, end game. Call Mirror. Max E here. Call by the grave, mostly so I can pay out some stuff. Anything else to have? Sky Tracker, and I was like, oh, so this is what I'm dealing with. So you're probably getting worthless. Albaz mostly would not matter, but it allows me to proc out Titans right in a game, so I can actually go into another Mirror Jade. Since it didn't matter which one I have. This is where the combo comes in. It doesn't matter since it goes Strike Striker. No matter which one to do, it will not end my match win since Mirror allows me to have Brand Fusion back in my hand. Titan allows me to go into Fusion. And next I'll discard my card. Go into Mirror Jade. Now pretty much right back in square one. The card comes back, but it still gets destroyed in a turn, so they should have saved the hassle, not future summoning. I decided to go Lobbin. Go to the combo. Go into Masquerade for game. Run in red if I felt like it. Overall, this is just game, so no need to watch. Next deck is against Pendulum, which mostly has standard stuff like Dragon Pulse, mostly utilizing a little bit generic cards like Ash, or Rigeki, and other stuff to mostly help their deck have consistency. Outside that, to have like a lot of odd cards like Light Phoenix, most of the stuff. So it's just pendulum all over the place, utilizing more stuff. I kind of figured you might as well put actual focus on the deck since there's less cards to work with outside the typical cards like Super Rankings and Arc. I don't feel like there was an actual reason to build a deck. I feel like if you're just having this much stuff to work with, and also utilizing Heavy Storm Duster, which is not good for this format for them, they might just play better stuff to have some Marvel, I guess. But I guess it makes sense. Solemn could be better to run anything, I feel like. That's just me. Let's get straight into the match. Overall, my hand opening was alright, I guess, with Albaz. With Brandon opening, Brandon lost. So I get a Fed Rattler since I right across on my hand if needed. Since I had a Call by Grave, I feel like it was the best option. Said Brandon lost to go into Labrynth. Mostly so I can get my plus out. Since I was going to Labrynth either way, I decided to get my combo with Traptrix. Get cross out since there's nothing interaction so far that I can forward with. Set Traptrix set that to my turn. I decided to go into Pendulum since most of their deck at this point, as I've thought, was Pendulum, and I was right, which I'm happy about. But at the same time, I was like, whatever. I just want to get through this match. Alabin decided to get another Brandon Fusion in my hand. Decided to go into Brandon Lost to this point. Again, this, then Lobin. Fusion summon, mostly get my Tri Brigade. Get some nice stuff in the extra deck back in there. Get the Spain, get Masquerade out. It doesn't matter since this is just game, as we can find out from their list. Next match essentially isn't pure, it's mostly just Labrynth in general with anti-spell, I'm guessing, for the matchup against Runix. I hit one back experience to Runix. I will say that much, I'll explain in the end. Labrynth, Ice Dragon Prison, nothing unusual, Dogmata. Overall, mostly what I consider the typical stuff that the deck runs in general. Outside that, there's just some other stuff like Star Venom makes sense, Dragon and Five-Handed doesn't make sense with the deck. I feel like since Labrynth has no meaning to go into it, there's not much fusion. These are just mostly cards that they'll go into, I guess. The links make sense. The Synchro, I guess makes sense for the Red Resonator play. I did not realize the Red Resonator at first. Huh. I must be focusing on those too much at this point. Lich is whatever. But since I got Link Twos, I guess, it makes sense. But I feel like there's better cards to run a deck. Overall, versus that, which get straight into the match. I guess actually there was one Eldrich, not Toast, which can send cards from about to control, so I guess it actually works. Overall, my hand was alright, I figured, since I have a couple outs, and I was going second. Seriously, there was like one duel I feel like the whole time where I made one misplay, just because I should have gone Twin Trusters. Opponent decided they don't want to deal with it since they had no outs, so I was like, wow. Well, this made my daily easy, but not totally. Next, man, this is probably my longest video. Actually, quite a long while for solos, but this long I feel like, especially this late. My hand is just pretty much just dead most of the part, so I can make it work. Go into Chester, go inside with Dragon Flipprint. Decide to get rid of it. Add one card in my deck to my hand. Veer. Go into tree, special summon. Next up, go into this. Cyber Dragon Nova here. Special summon. Go into the Cyber Dragon Infinity. Go into. I gotta go into Dean's Poster, but I was like, it doesn't matter. Probably decided to give it there, said that they had no outs. Overall, not much. Overall, next deck. Next up, I'll reveal my new deck now, which is... Okay, as you know, there's a lot of Runic players happening now, and nowadays, and I effing hate it. And I will say this much. Why are Runic people happening? I hope you're happy. Because my playthrough of this was ridiculous. Because you know why? Facing a Runic player in Silver. I have patience with the Runic players. I will quit instantly, but my limit on you guys showing up, I hate you guys. Showing up in Silver Robo places. Don't even bother bringing that thing of Silver. Literally, bring it in the deck. Bring something else. Even bring Flu of all things. I'm okay with it. I'll just quit. But bring Runics to actually make new people suffering? That's where I draw the line. You know what? I have payback for all you now. My next deck, essentially, I sadly don't have the arm materials for it right now, but I'm still mostly going to cut some stuff down. So far, Sonic T's never happened, but I actually got agree with some of the builds, like Majesty's Fiends, so they can activate monster effects, Lava Golems, Nibiru. Somehow tries the only difference between Samurai's builds so far, and I'm still updating my extra deck. Running Fountains, 3 of everything. I'll cut down to what I don't need pretty soon. Overall, this deck is mostly just a hate profile against towards you. If I see you rank so much, I hope this deck becomes annoying against you because you're pretty much. I just don't. If you don't want to feel it, if you don't want to play against it, quit. If you don't want to have mirror, now you know no are suffering on their hands. Stop playing Runic and Silver, cause I will play this. And next up, everyone gets frustrated. Do you like being frustrated in Silver, but got reset? Anyway, I hope you're happy. Let's get... Overall, this is Phoenix signing out. I hope you have a good day or night. And Runic plays in Silver, I gotta give you the middle finger for this one. Peace.